defense, man?
Not hot. It's not looking too good right now, especially in the secondary. That's about it. I think our D-line looks good. It's getting to that point where you talk about the miscommunication, all this other type of stuff. There's a deadline for that where we can't be keeping on bringing up, it's just the little things. It's just miscommunication. They're going to figure it out at some point. That's it, man. I don't know. You have this Fulgham guy going off on us, rookie from Old Dominion, 6th round pick.
7.57, baby. Well, he's not from. He's from like Alexandria, Virginia. But
I don't know. There
in the building, all right.
There were some good throws in it, like a good throw. They
definitely. Man, he had one on Hilton. It was beautiful. It was literally 2-man. You talk about it reminded me of Ben. I mean, it was plenty of times I remember we be in practice and you're covering that very same route, man. 2-man. So you got the safeties are playing a cover 2 zone, right? So they have between the two guys, one has one half, one has the other half. Everybody else is playing man to man. And that's the throw that they say, man, if that guy can make that throw, that's special because 90% of the time they're going to miss that. If I'm attached to this guy underneath, you can't throw it under. You can't throw it short. You got to put air on it, but you can't put too much air because of safety there. You have to be exactly perfect on that, though. They made some of those throws. They definitely did. I mean, we've seen Ben do it. We've seen the top tier quarterbacks do it. And we know with Wentz, he has top tier ability. It's just the injuries and the inconsistencies are what holds him back right now. But we know, I mean, it's a reason why he was drafted. It's a reason why he's to this point in his career. I mean, we know he can make those throws. He can do that. So some of that was that without a doubt, man.
Yeah, dude. I don't know. Where do we go from here? Like, what's your solutions here?
Yeah. So for me, man, watching them again, it was a couple of things. Number one, we talked about how D-line and coverage units working together, right? We said that it was a couple times that the rush saved the secondary, whether it was the pressures, the QB hit, the 11 QB hits, or the 5 sacks. A mix of that kept points off the board. But then on the flip side, it was times where the D-line didn't get there. And that largely played into some of those passes that we were seeing, some of the double moves, some of the longer downfield routes. They go hand in hand. I mean, and I understand too, because trust me, the D-line, they balled out. But the thing is, it's like when you talk about not having those lulls, right, where you feel like, man, for about 2 quarters, we felt like we weren't really getting to Wentz. We felt like, man, he was having time and just doing what he wanted. Then obviously in the 4th, after the dagger touchdown with Claypool, then we come back, Bud gets a sack, TJ gets after it, totally different atmosphere. You can't have those lapses. And we said just throughout this season, offensively and defensively, they've all had these quarter to 2 quarter lapses where they kind of disappear a little bit. That's what we're seeing a little bit with the rush. So that's why sometimes the rush looks amazing. And then you're kind of like, well, dang, man, what's going on here? Where is it at? Now, from the secondary standpoint, it's a couple of things. Number one, they're having missed assignments. Man, it's been a couple of touchdowns, 2-point conversions, multiple plays now that we've seen throughout these weeks where it's just flat out miscommunication. You watch it on tape and you're like, okay, you can try to piece together the puzzle, but because it's not just one guy, that's the problem. If it was just one guy out of assignment, it's easy to point it out. They stick out like a sore thumb on tape. You're like, oh, it was that guy. It's cool. But that's not the case. It's 2 and 3 guys. And sometimes it's guys that we don't like, we're not going to name because we know these guys have put up together, fantastic seasons in the past and have had nice stats. But some of those key guys in the secondary are part of the miscommunication at times. That's what's really killing them. And then from a technique standpoint, man, I don't know when they started doing this because like Coach Simon, he's like anti this, but they're playing man to man, but instead of it being bump and run, they're playing either off man or they're playing bump or they're playing no bump, just and run coverage, meaning they're not getting hands on these receivers and disrupting the timing. And the problem with that is this: if you play man to man, but I don't touch you, my technique and my eyes have to be perfect every single snap. I have to come out of my break perfect every single time. That's hard to do because essentially now when you don't put hands on these receivers, you make it athlete on athlete. So to put it in context, right? Ray McCloud, is he the most productive wide receiver in the NFL? No, not even close, right? But if we're talking about just athletic ability, from an athletic ability standpoint, he's one of the best athletes on the field in terms of speed and elusiveness, right? So if I am a little bit lesser of an athlete, still I'm a great player now, very productive. I got interceptions, PBUs, tackles, I do all of that. But if we're just talking sheer athletic ability, if I allow Ray McCloud to get a 5 to 10 yard head start before I move my feet, he's going to torch you every time. With Fulgham, that's what they were doing. They would not put hands on him. It was 3 times they put hands on him. The 3rd and 5, the right after this was going into when Claypool scored, where Joe gets the PBU. That was one of the first times in the second half, one of the only times in the second half that they actually challenged Fulgham at the line of scrimmage. You see Joe, and even with Joe, he's lined up nose to nose with him. He doesn't touch him until 4 yards though. He's back pulling off, dancing with him, and then he finally touches him. But that's the difference. Now you disrupt the timing of his break. Also, because you got hands on him, you're already in phase with them. So when the ball is coming, you're able to play on the ball. Prior to that, Joe, Steven, all these guys that took turns, Mike Hilton, they're either playing 5 yards off or sometimes they were at 8 yards off and allowing him to free release. And then from there, you got to guess right. All right, I'm going to take away the inside. If he breaks out, I got to be perfect on this break. Versus a great athlete or versus a guy that can just run routes on air, you're going to get cooked. And that's what was going on literally the whole game, and especially on third downs. We talk about why Carson Wentz was so great on third down. They would not press any of those receivers. The only receiver they would press was Zach Ertz. Whether it was Minkah, Edmonds, Hilton, Steven Olsen, even Joe, anytime those guys played against Zach Ertz, they were face-to-face with him, and they would get hands on him early. Or because he's not as athletic as some of those other guys, they were able to move with him and dance with him coming in and out of the breaks. That's why you really didn't see a lot from him. But when it came down to the receivers, Ward, Fulgham, they would not touch them. They literally would give them a cushion and just play, okay, if you're running this 10-yard out, when you go to break at 10, I'm going to hope that my break is better than your break. And it just wasn't. And that's the biggest thing. So for me, if you're going to play, and there's pros and cons to both, right? A lot of times why they don't play as much bump and run is because number one, it's taxing. You get tired. Joe, the play where going into halftime, right, where the guy hits the bomb on Joe Hayden
on the right sideline. Yeah.
Literally 3 plays in a row, they took Joe deep. The play before they actually made the completion, remember they threw it to Joe in the end zone on the post route, and the guy just overthrows it. That was one of those plays where I talked about D-line making a play, saving Joe, because Joe definitely had given up some space. It should have been a touchdown. If it's a good throw and catch, it's a touchdown. But they did that 3 times in a row. Joe's gassed. You can see him, he's barely putting his chin strap on. Like, you can just see he's tired. So when you talk about bumping and running, that takes a lot. Early in the season, not the real offseason that you get, guys are still playing themselves into shape. That's a part of it as well. The second thing, when you play bump and run, right, the risk you give is if you do get tired, or if you miss with your hands, now you got to worry about getting beat over the top. Okay, that's another element of it, okay? But the problem also is this. When you're playing a lot of press man to man, your disguise goes away, because I'm able to just look and see flat backs across, everybody's pressed up. Y'all are man-to-man coverage. Excuse me. So those are some of the negatives with it. The positive are, though, your timing is going to be off. So if my D-line is rushing how they rush, well, those sack numbers are going to go up, because you're not able to just look 3 steps and just throw it because my hands are on them at 3 yards. I'm still in that phase right there. It makes the players have to develop longer. Also, I'm not going to allow you to just get a 10-yard completion just by me standing here and not moving. Even though fundamentally you didn't do anything wrong, you don't challenge him. If you don't challenge him, it's a simple throw and catch. It's like watching when you go to training camp and you see the offense before practice with all their wide receivers and they're just throwing routes on there. That's what it looks like, because you're not touching. You're not disrupting the timing of it. That's another element of it, okay? So the way you combat that is, number one, you put hands on them. But number two, okay, if you don't want to do a whole bunch of the press man to man stuff, you try to go off man. Now, what they do when they go off man, like I talked about, it allows these guys to have free reign. The beauty of off man, though, is the disguise. When you look at them pre-snap, you see those guys moving around a ton back there, right? You'll see Cam Sutton on the right side, and he's dropping into the middle of the field. You'll see Minkah on one side dropping over there. When you're playing off, you get the luxury to do all those cute disguises pre-snap, and sometimes you'll confuse people. Sometimes you will. But when you get a team like how Wentz was, and he just got committed to Fulgham and Ward, and he was just basically saying, look, man, if they're going to do all this cute zone stuff, man, run 10-yard in, you run a 10-yard out, you run a drag, man, we're going to just light that up like that. Those are some of the issues you get with that. Now, what the Steelers could do are 2 things, because they're playing a ton of man too, especially on third down. Typically, it's more fire zone, right? Typically, it's more just split safety zones. That's what we've seen from them in the past. But last year, second half of the season, they started to transition to a lot more man because they had the personnel for that. If you're going to play man, you just have to have those guys playing more bump and run, getting hands on the receivers to disrupt them. You can't play off man 90% of the time. They're playing off man on possession downs 90% of the time, and you're just allowing an easy throw and catch. You can't do that. Now, if you want to play off, you got to go more zone stuff. Now, if you go zone stuff, two things happen. Number one, you got more eyes on these guys, right? So that's going to help you out. But with zones, it's naturally just soft spots. It's going to be holes in the zone. So each defense has pros and cons to it. There is no perfect thing. But I just think from a technique standpoint, if you're going to play man like how you're playing, you have to have those guys get hands on these receivers. What I would do if it was me, I'm saying, okay, we're going to mix it up a lot more. Instead of us playing exclusively man, if you guys aren't conditioned enough to be able to bump and run 90% of the game, all right, well, we're going to play man 60% of the time instead of 90. And then on those other 40%, all right, we're going to mix it up with some type of exotic zone, some type of blitz, and that's going to help you out. That'll help cover for some of those scenarios. But right now, they're just on sheer technique before the play starts, just on their technique and alignment, they're already at a disadvantage. And that's why you're seeing teams continually be able to move the ball like that. And why when you see them against a guy like Wentz, who we said, man, we know he's talented and he gets going, that's what it's going to look like right now. So they're going to have to figure out something, man, whether, like I said, you either press more, get hands and disrupt these guys, or you rely exclusively on the rush and say, hey, you guys got to get there within 3 to 4 seconds. No excuse. That's another alternative. Or you got to mix it up on the back end, man, and not play exclusive man. But that's the biggest thing I'm saying. And then I think that's also carried over for Minkah too. People have talked about Minkah's lack of productivity, lack of splash. Last year when Minkah was here, they were playing a lot more zone early. Then they shifted to man. Or if they were playing man, he was the low cut defender, right? So instead of being the middle of the field, deep guy, 20 yards downfield, he was 10, 15 yards from the line of scrimmage, jumping on things, right? And that gives you the luxury to be able to read the quarterback's eyes and make plays. When they're playing exclusive man, he's literally between the hashes. Some of these throws are out by the numbers. You're not getting there unless you cheat to get there. But if you cheat that, you just know you're leaving something else open. Now, do we want Minkah to do more? Absolutely, because I look at Minkah and I say, man, Minkah, you're a phenomenal player, right? You're a great athlete. The same way when we watch Cam and Tua in the front, right? We know, okay, if it's a run play, they got this A gap, right? The gap between the center and the guard. That's their gap. And they can stay in their gap every play. The run would never go there. Did they do their job? Yes. But we know I would much rather see him swim out of that gap, make a tackle for a loss, than you play your gap every single time and you never make a splash play. With Minkah, he's not taking those chances right now. He's really just being by the book. It's not wrong. It doesn't mean he's playing bad.
You think there's a reason?
I don't know. That's the thing, because last year, some of those times he would take chances. Right now, when he is taking chances, he's guessing wrong. And that plays into it as well. You know what I mean? It's the one, this would have been on the goal line. I believe it was the 2-point play. Yeah, he's in the middle of the field, cover one. He runs up as if he was going to, because I think what he saw was when Zach Ertz ran across the motion, like at post snap, he runs across the field behind the line of scrimmage. He looks at Wentz rolling out and thinks Wentz is going to try to run this. So he leaves the middle of the field to go find Wentz. Problem is, by doing that, he cuts off Edmonds, who's chasing after Ertz, which leaves Ertz open in the flat, and then you got the receiver in the back of the end zone. Now, Joe Hayden, who's supposed to be in the back of the end zone, has to try to cover both guys. You took the chance, but you guessed wrong, and now you put the defense in a bind. So it's so much that goes into it. So it's not like you could just say, go out here predetermined, take this chance right here. You have to make sure that if you're going to take the chance, your percentages are right. That's what Troy was great at. Troy, if he's going to take a chance, Troy knew, man, it's a 90% chance that this is what you're going with. If it's a 90% chance or even an 80% chance, take the chance. Right now, we're not seeing that pop up a lot on Minkah's tape this year. Like I said, it's still early in the year, and that's why I'm not ready to just write the book on him and say, oh man, last year was a one-off. But those are some of the things that are playing into it. And when you add missed tackles, missed assignments, bad technique, along with some of the, all right, I guessed wrong here. Well, then you look at the defense, the secondary, you're like, bro, the secondary is broke. What's going on here? That's it though, man. It's nothing like major. That's the beauty of it. Some teams, man, like we talk about, some teams it's like, bro, y'all got way more issues than just bumping up. You know what I mean? With the Steelers, it's a simple fix. Dude, either mix the coverage up, play more zone, or just put your hands on these guys. If you're Minkah, hey, just play the percentages. If you know it's third and 10, They come out in a trip set and you know the X on the backside is condensed. You know, okay, he's either running across this formation or he's running some type of corner, some type of outbreaking route. Play the percentages. It's stuff like that. And Minkah's a professional. He's going to do these things. But I just think right now, early in the year, that happens. You know what I mean? Like when you don't have the offseason to get this stuff, when you don't have the offseason to get the time and to get the condition and to see these reps, yeah, you're going to be a little bit late. You're going to guess wrong sometimes. But the beauty is this: if you're guessing wrong and we're talking about the secondary not playing up the par and you're still 4-0, I think it's a good problem to have right now, man.
Coach Moats with the breakdown.
Man, I feel like I went on for a long time right there. My apologies, man. I was excited about those guys, man, because I really wanted to go back and see like what's going on. But that's it, man. It's simple, which is good. Like when you talk about the Eagles, they got personnel issues. Like they don't, outside of Darius Slay, they just don't have the personnel to match up. Now with Darius Slay, we talk about like guys that press man a lot. He almost plays exclusively press, but what he does really well is he is handsy. So he gets hands on the guys in 5 yards, but he also has a problem down the field. He still wants to hand fight. That's just a part of the receivers that you're used to going against. We talk about AB. We've seen numerous times with AB. AB gonna hand fight you, push off. So he's accustomed to that. Sometimes referees will let it go. Sometimes they call it. It's 50-50 with that type of stuff. But that's why he's able to excel. Guys like Jalen Ramsey, they're able to excel doing all this man-to-man stuff because they're not allowing guys to just come off the line of scrimmage free. No, we talk about Richard Sherman. You see these guys, Revis, man, they are hands. They're gonna grab, push, do something to disrupt your time. And prime time's another one. We saw Deion Sanders. He was the king. Like he's gonna quick jam you. He gonna touch you. I done jam you 3 times. Now I'm gonna fake the jam because that's gonna make you slow up. And now you're gonna run. That hesitation disrupts your route. I'm good to go now. That's all I need is just that split second because that's gonna help the rush. And it's also going to make that quarterback look over here and say, okay, you my first read. It's not there. Let me go somewhere else now. All of it works together in that vein, man.
Nice, dude. Secondary's going to be better now.
I hope so. I hope so, man.
After listening to you.
I hope so. Because the thing, like I said, man, they haven't fallen off. The guys haven't gotten older. Steven Nelson isn't a bad player all of a sudden. Joe Hayden isn't too old. It's just that simple adjustment of because it's times where they play off, man. It's times they play and actually press. The biggest issue is they are not putting their hands on these receivers, though. If you allow guys that at the NFL level, these athletes are the best of the best. If you allow these guys to just free release, they will continue to cook you. And that's what we've seen this year. And like I said, I think a lot of it does have to do with the condition element of it, though. When you haven't been getting those football reps and getting into like legit football shape, it's tough. Tough.
A lot of defenses are getting torched in the league.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
The passing's been crazy, so that would go to your point.
Yeah. I'm telling you, and we said on defense, man, you can play 10 plays right. You have one bad play, it's a touchdown. And when we're looking at this tape, it's like, man, outside of the mental errors, they're playing well. It's just, man, dude, get the technique right. Just bump up a little bit. Touch him. Because you're doing everything else right. Your break is good. Your eyes are good. But because you didn't do that, you're low. You're losing before you even get the real opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's a big issue. You know what I mean? Like they can fix that. But if they don't, it's going to continue to look like this. And it's only going to get worse when you really play. Like I kept saying to myself when I watched the game, I said, we're lucky this is Wentz and Fulgham and Ward and not Big Ben, Deontay, Juju, and Claypool, because with a legit surgeon who has legit weapons, you playing that off coverage, letting these guys just run, it's going to look like Canadian football out here, man. These guys are going to light you up. It's going to look like Arena League. It's going to look like Pac-12. Like, I'm telling you.